so many movies that have come out in the past years that have flopped or not been well received, it seems like more movies do badly than they do good nowadays, and whenever there's any criticism about it from the audience, the people on whom the studios are depending, to give their money to support their films, the audience is insulted for their views, especially if it's negative. One of the many films that ended up flopping was Shazam 2, following its successor Shazam starring Zachary Levi.
Shazam!
The first movie had a quirky atmosphere with a very likable characters and tone, while the second movie ended up feeling like a cash grab bloated with so many different characters that just didn't possess the same quality and magic as the first. It wasn't the worst movie ever, but it definitely did not hold a candle to the first movie. It's only logical that audiences might not be as engaged with a film if it doesn't resonate with them. And honesty from viewers is essential for these creators to understand how to improve their work or to gauge the true feelings of the people who they're trying to cater to. In what world would actors and studios not want to sincerely know the desires or preferences of the very people to whom they're trying to appeal? This disconnect between creators and audiences seems very counterintuitive. I mean, it only stands to reason from a business standpoint that you would want to know what your audience wants, what your focus audience wants in entertainment. By embracing open communication and genuine feedback, not just ass kissing, filmmakers can actually align a little bit more closely with the expectations and needs of their viewers or audiences. And that would end up fostering a more satisfying and successful entertainment experience for both the audience and the studios. Now, while there is something to be said for art and creative freedom, it's undeniable that many studios are motivated by profit, by money. After all, they are businesses, and their primary goal is to make money. But this can also lead to them pandering to popular trends and catering to a very small denominator of people, rather than taking risks on more creative and challenging products and seeing the big picture. And this might be frustrating to them. I get it, but it's simply the reality of the entertainment industry. You'd think it would be common knowledge by now then, if the studios notice that the audiences are saying that they don't like something, that the studios and the people behind these movies and works would simply just understand this and just keep it pushing. But then I read an excerpt from what Zachary Levi said, who played the Shazam character in both movies, the main one, and realize that this is exactly what's wrong with the mentality of the studios and their actors today. Actors have always been entitled little brats. But what really doesn't help is when they pump out their little chests and beat their little fists on their chests and bellow at the audience in an attempt to force the audience to like them or whatever they might be starring in. It's very off-putting, and I don't know what they intend to achieve from this, but now we're seeing things having the complete opposite effect. I mean, let's be honest, it's always had the opposite effect, but it just seemed to have snowballed over the past few years. Disney, one of those companies, is seeing that and tasting a little bit of that regret, and it's sending the fans running for the hills. So Zach says, I don't know what the future holds for it all because unfortunately the second movie was not as well received. The audience score is still quite good, but the critics' score was very oddly and perplexingly low. And people were insanely unkind. Insanely unkind? Insanely unkind. Interesting adjectives. This person sounds as though he lived in a little bubble for his entire life, sheltered from every bit of criticism. Ironically, he's talking about the critics, and that's one reason to be a little dubious because the critics tend to just shill. I'm not saying all of them, but a perplexing amount of them do. That's how we use the word perplexing. So it's very hard-pressed to trust anything that they say nowadays. As a matter of fact, and I know I've said this before, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes at all because if you go to Metacritic or any other review site that is not in bed with some of the major studios, you will see that the audience score actually hangs around 50% for that movie, which is funny enough, right on par with that of the critics. So the audience and the critics more realistically agree with each other on the quality of this movie, which is Shazam 2. So Metacritic, here are some of the reviews for what people left. Some of them rated it 1 out of 10, 3 out of 10. And just as an example, in case you can't look at the screen, one of them reads, the first film had teenager Billy Batson being able to transform himself into a superhero by saying Shazam. This sequel adds 5 of his teen friends who also possess their own powers. Then the titular gods show up to cause havoc, although they're actually goddesses, Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu. The best thing about the original is the humor, and this one does offer some amusing moments, otherwise the plot is messy, the action is unexciting, and the characters aren't interesting. As sequels go, this one probably won't excite even the fans for the original. The last one says, glad I didn't pay to see this mess. What a horrible movie. Poor jokes, bad acting, mess of a story, no charm. Had to sit through multiple attempts to make it through the entire film. How they took a cute first movie and made a sequel this bad is amazing. I have zero faith in DC. If people are giving their honest opinion and saying things like this was a mess of a movie and it had good potential when it dropped the ball, how is that insanely unkind? Exactly what does that even mean? I think insanely unkind would fit the realms of, your face is so awful to look at, Zach, that you made the entire movie horrible from you just existing in it. That is insanely unkind. And I can't even say it's insanely unkind. It's just unnecessarily unkind. But putting the adjective insanely just amps it up to a degree that I don't even think is applicable in this situation. But to call people insanely unkind for simply just voicing why they didn't like the movie, and the actors suddenly taking this as some kind of personal attack, is what's wrong with the entertainment today. Specifically with movies and TV shows and stuff. All these studios and actors feel as though their boots must be constantly licked, even with a bad product that they put out. Zachary Levi admits that the movie wasn't perfect, but then you have an issue with people being insanely unkind. Nobody owes you kindness for being an actor in a movie that sucks. This isn't about you. If I'm spending my money on something, I don't give a fuck who you are. If it's a poor and shitty product, I'm going to say it's a poor and shitty product. Imagine being so self-absorbed that somebody just mainly talking about your product makes you feel personally attacked and as though they are unkind. What in the actual ass? Especially if they're just talking about the product. I believe that this type of mindset is what's tearing down the industry. These big name and illustrious people seem to think that everyone should bow down to them and always agree with them, no matter what. These are the same studios that will proudly tell people not to purchase their product if they don't like it, and not to watch it, and then ironically, when we don't watch it, they say we are unkind because how dare we have an opinion when we are spending our hard-earned money on something? How dare we not throw our money at them, even though we're dissatisfied with the product that they're putting out? It's clear that these studios are out of touch with their audience. They need to realize that people are not just going to blindly follow them just because they're big names. People have opinions, and they're not afraid to share them, and they shouldn't be. If studios want to keep making money, they need to start listening to their audience again. They need to actually start caring about the people whose money they're asking for. Again, nobody has an issue when people are praising something, but dare you speak ill of it, and that is a big issue. There is something extremely wrong when you are not allowed to criticize something. I don't see anybody out here saying that they hate the actor personally, or that he's a horrible person, or they're trying to disrepute him, or defame him, or anything like that. I could probably understand his viewpoint from that light if that's what was going on, but they're mainly criticizing the movie and the elements of the movie. And if the actors can't take that kind of criticism when it's not even directly about them, then crazy thought, maybe they don't deserve to be actors because that's kind of par for the course. Studios will have flop after flop after flop, and yet blame everything else except for their own lack of professionalism and the pristine quality that they've had in times gone by. More people should speak up about how they feel, and if this is an attempt to dissuade people from speaking up, all it's managed to do is cause people to be more vitriolic and resentful. And so now instead of having them actually critique just the movie, now you're having them critique the entire organization and the actors. It puts me in mind of the story of Oedipus, when you try so hard to control something that you end up causing the very thing you were trying to avoid. And I do think studios are starting to realize this, but they're so freaking backwards in their thought process that it took them all of, what, 10 years to realize this? Like, I don't even understand. It's just crazy to me. Almost like someone is trying to sabotage the companies from the inside out. That's kind of what it feels like. They've done that with Disney with the sinking boat. It's like, oh no, the boat's sinking. And now it's on fire. Let's keep throwing fuel on it and blowing cannon holes through it. Let's just do that and hope that it will not sink. So weird to me. Well, what do you guys think about this? Do you think that the studios have a right to be angry at the audiences for voicing their opinion about being negative about something? I mean, they might think that it's unfair because in the age of social media, it makes them look bad and cost them money. But if you don't have a good product, doesn't it make sense that you voice your opinion so people are just throwing their money at stuff that they don't like? Maybe I'm wrong. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.